Looks like your credits went through just fine. Fantastic. Now, where was I? Right. You were asking about the mercs. Nox Solaris. Well, friend, you have come to the right man. Been their humble street pharmacist since just after they got together. Some of my best clients, by the way. But more importantly for you, they're the best there is at what they do. I mean, what a group. Leader's a bona fide Atlantean voyager. That's right, Atlantean. Then there's the spooky techno-wizard cyborg genius. Finally, a mystic smithy giant. 12 feet tall if he's an inch. Not to mention the mountain of a spirit bear he calls brother. Now, I can get word to him if you're looking to hire Mister. No problem there. Just let old Blitz give you 2 tiny tips for your health. First, don't get on their bad side. Make sure you have payment ready to go, and don't try to pull any bullshit, or you're worse than dead. And second, don't piss off that fucking bear.
Finally, there you are. The Nexus had just enough power to fuel one more try. The last step. The Megaverse knows my Atlantean people as heroes, but a shadow of chaos has taken root in me. They try to bind it. They try to bury it. But when I finally called out to it, to you, from across the void, you answered, I am ready.
Welcome, traveler, to the Black Shore.
Your shame reaches a mother's heart, even beyond the veil, little brother. My sister Sora mocked her as the darkness closed in. She giggled and synthesized honey-sweet tones while leaning close to softly breathe her venom into my ear. And so, with judgment passed and tourniquets in place, my family commanded the automated surgical bots to neatly slice both arms and legs from my torso. The harsh lights overhead swam and dimmed before my eyes, as flesh and bone were replaced with cold, unfeeling metal to cripple my connection to the arcane. Now, my family lies far behind my path, and I follow a new teacher as she whispers from the darkness ahead. Her voice haunts me with promises of forbidden knowledge and wonders precious beyond compare. Each step brings me closer to my prize, closer to my revenge, closer to her.
Nah, brother. My eyes read the stars as keenly as your ancient ones do. Et is almost here. E is almost and with him comes the end for our proud and noble Vana countryman, along with the rest of the souls on this world. As his foul shadow falls upon us all, we alone stand for those who cannot. So rise, son of Aku. Our ancestors smile upon us this night as they call us home. Come and let us earn our place amongst the stars above.
All right. Welcome to our Prism of KeterFall campaign in the Rift setting. Guys, we're going to jump right in because time is short today. Let's pick back up with Ymir, who is standing in an alleyway. Let's see. Who is standing in an alleyway that was currently occupied by these individuals. But this is roughly the environment that they were in as they took off. This individual made his presence known and began stalking in towards them. As I said, they took off in almost a panic, and he is now closing in on Ymir and his companion Wotek with this nightmarish monstrosity close behind. All right, Ymir, I'm going to throw it directly to you. What would you like to be doing?
Well, if I remember correctly, he tried to attack me with some sort of psychic force that
Correct.
I successfully defended from, and we were backing up in sort of a shield wall combat stance, defensive stance, because I'm just trying to get out of the alley, not really even engage with the being, because Ymir is just trying to find Wotek. Or just trying to find Akama, rather, rejoin his group, because he obviously went down a side alley and he's just trying to get back to his battle brother.
And I believe we had said that you're roughly 50 feet off to the right from Akama's perspective. There next to the table he was sitting at, he's now engaged in some interesting dance maneuvers with Seraph, but yes, from his perspective, you were off to the right.
Moves.
It was good. It was good.
Have I reached the light of the main street yet?
So
Or
as
am
you
I...
let me set this up. As you
Okay.
continue backing up, you realize that kind of ringing, that sensation in your head of just kind of discordance, it's causing your perceptions to definitely be kind of thrown askew. You're noticing your equilibrium is a bit off. You're noticing that kind of really forcing yourself to pick up speed is it just seems kind of out of the question, although you're applying yourself as hard as you can towards it. Now, in this sense, your vision is kind of reduced, and you almost have kind of a sense of tunnel vision right now. And there's almost a quality of not quite being drunk, but just on the verge of kind of, kind of losing your equilibrium more than you should from just being tired or something mundane. That being said, you're still able to function fairly normally, and you're noticing that just step by step, each agonizing moment, you do see that the light around the peripheral vision from your perspective is starting to get just a touch brighter. So you're not sure exactly what this effect was that you experienced, but whatever it is, it seems like you're starting to kind of pull back from it and have more control of yourself and be kind of back out in, not to say you're somewhere else, but more in a normal kind of environment and kind of sense of space and time. Now again, you did shrug the brunt of that effect off, and it makes you question how well you would have been able to deal with not being that successful, if maybe you would find yourself just kind of completely catatonic on the cobblestones right now. All right. And as he approaches, you do notice that creature behind him seems to be slowly sliding its claws in an almost kind of sensual manner against each other, kind of trying to sharpen its own claws, while that ghastly kind of visage of all of those dastardly teeth just kind of drools saliva, and large horse-like puffs of wind come out of its nostrils. It seems very, very pleased with the situation, and seems like it just can't wait to get its hands on you.
Now, here, I have a question.
Yes,
Does
sir.
Ymir understand that this creature or merchant or whatever the fuck he is just did that attack to him? Is he aware that
Yes.
the
Oh,
attack
yeah.
came from...
Okay.
Okay.
You felt it hit your head like a sledgehammer. It wasn't pain, but there was almost a palpable concussion of force from this other kind of will trying to force itself on you.
Well, and he said he just wanted to palaver, if I remember correctly, which means that he just, if I'm reading into that correctly, if I'm getting that slang correct, that means he's trying to talk, right? Or that's what he asked.
Yep.
Okay. Well, stealing myself, stopping, dead where I am, Ymir looks him, this being, this creature, straight in his eyes, straight in the beady little demonic eyes that he has, and he goes, "It's an unwise man that wants to talk to someone such as me after an attack has been delivered on myself. You want to speak, then you should just talk, rather than trying to worm whatever dark magics you had against me and my shield brother."
Okay. As you say this, you see that his attention seems to instantly cut off over your left shoulder sharply, where something's going on apparently behind you. And as this happens, he seems to completely disregard you in every way. As his head whips over a few degrees to the side, he instantly steps back with his right foot and plants himself kind of in a position much more akin to somebody ready to box or get into some kind of physical altercation. You also notice that the creature behind him also whips its attention just slightly to the side and seems to track whatever enemy its master or companion seems to be targeted at. At the same time, we are going to snap over to Akama. You are standing there with Seraph, who's been kind of mesmerizing this crowd, and you just had an interesting exchange where kind of had
shaking what my mama gave me.
Yeah, right. You're shaking it. You're having a good time, man. Everything's going really, really good. And maybe there was a misstep or two. It doesn't matter. You still came out of it. Well, you know, mega damage, butt hit the ground, no damage done. You know what I mean?
Bounce back up, baby.
You're good.
Yeah.
You're good. So you had this little exchange, but it was because there were a couple of different forces seemingly starting to congregate on your position. Now, one of them was these kind of rebel-looking individuals led by this kind of gorilla humanoid. They were moving in pretty quick. They didn't seem especially dangerous to you. They didn't seem like they were, overly aggressive towards you, but they do seem like they're moving in pretty quickly. And then this individual had been sitting at a table several yards away. He had been he's wearing a trench coat and kind of dark fedora. He was smoking a cigarette and having a beverage, a cocktail of some type. And when you had tried to identify him with your enhanced sight, your mystical vision, he had appeared as just a mystical kind of dark spot on the environment. He had raised up and began approaching you rather rapidly. And the two different factions seem to be closing in very quickly. They'll actually be to you in a matter of just a few seconds here. But as all of this is taking place, you see that this individual, he actually is surrounded by a dark kind of flaring aura, and his head spins around over behind his left shoulder. He appears to be looking down the alley that you had kind of noticed Bear taking a stroll down a few moments ago. And as he looks down that alley and this dark energy kind of solidifies around him, you hear a kind of series of gasps and a few kind of stifled screams coming from the crowd around him as he's lost in their kind of panicked motions for a moment or two. And as the crowd naturally begins backing out and away from where he stood, you come to have a clearer view of him. Now, Seraph has naturally picked up on the panicked cues from the crowd, and she is beginning to rotate her dancing and performance back over towards where the group of rebels had been coming in from. She's kind of moving off in that direction. You don't know if it's towards the safety of maybe their numbers, maybe they know each other, or whether it's just because it's away from the general direction that the threat seems to be coming from. But in any case, as she begins to kind of rotate out and away from the dance floor that you're occupying right now, the crowd does part, and you're able to see that human male seems to have been encased in some kind of, you would guess, mystical kind of covering. And before you see this individual, okay? Now you notice that each of those ribbons protruding from its back seem to be some kind of living metal. Paper thin, but whip-like with every kind of angry an aggressive motion that they take, and each one independently is full of motions, at least a dozen per second. One thing that you're noticing is that these don't necessarily look like smooth, fluid motions. Each one of these metallic ribbons seems to almost be shaking and almost vibrating, like when somebody tries to play a saw with a violin bow. It has that kind of warbly, kind of discordant quality that almost makes your eyes want to water and your gut turn over just a bit. Now, as those little gyrations are happening with all of those little chords, you notice that this individual moves very smoothly and confidently through the crowd. Now, it appears as though he knows that he doesn't need to worry about any of these blades or appendages lashing out on their own and just simply killing people. You almost get the impression that this may be some kind of defender of the people within this place. And you get that sense from being an Atlantean and being so connected to general peacekeeping at large. Your people are known for helping during all kinds of emergencies. It's kind of the nature of who they are. And so this person, you definitely get that kind of sense as he strides confidently through the crowd of people retreating from him, that he has a kind of sense of authority in this place where he knows he's doing what he's supposed to be. With that being said, you do notice that he starts sharpening the blades on each hand against each other and moving rather quickly towards that alley. As this happens, Bear, you're able to look back over Ymir. You see very clearly this individual start moving through the crowd towards you, and he's actually only about 20 feet away, coming up from behind you. Okay? As he's moving up, you hear a kind of chattering kind of noise, like a skull whose jaw is being manipulated very quickly to open and close against itself, making a supremely loud kind of like chattering noise of bone on bone. And as you hear that, you notice that the aggressive individual, as you spin back around, seems to be starting to pull back and away from you. And you notice that the creature that is with it actually is already several yards further back than it is, and it's actually turned its back fully around and appears to be moving at relatively full speed forward away from you, back down into the alley now. Now, he seems to be in an even more defensive posture than when you last looked at him. And he's starting to move backwards, but not nearly as quickly as this creature is. When you look over at the alley itself, you're not able to see down it very well because there's a lot of people from your perspective in between you and it. But you are able to see this individual and that creature well enough to get a clear look at it. All right. With this, Ymir, what would you like to be doing right now?
I'm not aware of the creature with the all the blades. You said he is how far away from me? Can I? I can see him out of my peripherals.
As you glance back over to see what this individual was looking at, you're able to see him clearly. Yes. And you can tell that he's moving towards you he's coming up from behind you.
Okay, well, Ymir's going to just quickly start backing up to where I can clearly face whatever threats coming directly at me. I don't know this creature's intentions or anything about him, but Ymir, I'm just gonna clutch my the World Maker defensively, just kind of ready for whatever comes next, and face the creature coming down the alleyway at me head on, kind of get out into the light on the street, continue backing up with Wotek, but facing it head on, kind of just watching to see what happens then.
Okay, and the creature's retreating pretty rapidly from you now. It's starting to pick up speed every second.
No. I met the creature with the blades. I'm walking into the alleyway to face that creature.
Okay. So you want to spin all the way around. Okay.
Yes.
As you spin around, you hear that chattering noise continue, and it begins to fade away quickly, and you're pretty confident that it was that large monstrosity like chattering its teeth together. And it's a very distinct noise that just kind of resonates in your head. You think, yeah,
maybe
you
I've
definitely
heard
notice
it before.
Maybe,
yeah.
But more like it's so unique you don't think you'll ever forget it.
Okay.
Now, you don't really hear anything else coming from the humanoid with it, other than what you guess is maybe some low kind of grumbles and curses in that same kind of almost Scottish lilt, okay? But they retreat very, very quickly. And soon they're just kind of lost. You also notice that as you turn around and start kind of pushing forward, very quickly the perspective you have brightens. You're able to see fairly normally within the next 5 or 6 seconds relative to that kind of vertigo you were experiencing, and very quickly you're kind of right back up to like 90% of being completely aware and kind of in control of your faculties. So as this is happening though, and this individual continues to close in on you, you notice that it starts picking up speed and kind of running towards you. As it does this, it makes one like quick, decisive gesture with its forearm blade, the one on its left hand, and you would guess that it actually is trying to tell you to get the hell out of the way in a very like short-tempered kind of manner. Okay? Now, the faceplate, it doesn't belie any emotion. You can't tell. It's not moving. It's not animated or articulated. So the kind of flat.
No, but that's non-verbal communication enough for Ymir to understand.
Yes, it's very clearly saying that with its gesture. But other than that, you can't really pick up anything other than it's ready for combat.
But I don't feel like the aggression is aimed at me, correct? No. I feel like he's just trying to tell me to get the hell out of the way.
Yes.
Well, still see that creature's gesture then, still in that defensive posture, clutching his hammer just in case, because you never know. People feign attacks all the time, feign friendship, feign like they're not going to hit you, and then they hit you. Ymir is ready for whatever, but he clears out of the path along with Wotek. Maybe they go to opposite sides of the alleyway. Maybe he points over to Wotek to have him clear the street and just get out of the creature's way, because whatever its business is, if it's not bloody combat with him, he really has no interest in it.
Okay, you make a quick gesture to Wotek, who takes his massive frame and deftly kind of slides up against the alley wall at its edge, and begins starting to kind of retreat on that inner corner, but around the side of
he also knows what beings on a mission looks like, and this being looks like he has a mission and it doesn't involve him. So
yeah, and he was getting enough of like the bad juju energy off of the shit in the alley that he knew that you guys needed to move and not just, you know, barrel into some kind of situation. So he's easily picking up on this creature's intentions. And yeah, he gets around the corner quickly, keeping his attention on the creature moving up. But it seems to completely ignore him. And as you start kind of shuffling around, it alters its path, purposely trying to, like, you know, give you the widest berth possible, obviously trying to not engage. Now, as all of this is happening and it's kind of running around you trying to get down the alleyway, let's switch over. Akama, what would you like to do as you see all of this kind of transpiring in front of you? I will say you're the one that has the vantage point to see that the kind of rebels and the guerrilla individual coming towards you, they actually have stopped now and are just kind of looking over, almost dumbfounded at that creature that's manifested and is now moving towards your companion.
Okay.
And remember, you've just done your moves, and you're standing there. Lars was pretty much completely incapacitated at this point. He was all fucked up off of her magic juju. So, all right.
And I see this guy walking toward Ymir. Yeah.
Yes, sir. You see pretty much everything I've described.
That's good. Some so damn tall.
Tall drink of water.
I'm going to continue to dance, but instead of now looking at Seraph in her eyes, I'm gonna be keeping an eye out on this guy walking toward Ymir.
So are you still facing her? Because she's kind of opposite from where all the action's happening down
I'll
the
do a
alley.
spin move
Okay.
with her, and so I can have my, so basically I do a dance move, and now I'm facing the alleyway.
So you want to try and grab a hold of her and dance with her?
No.
Was that
I know it's
okay?
gonna be a tragedy.
No. I mean, the last few rolls don't need to be the guidebook for what comes ahead.
It's a tragedy. It just sounds terrible. It's gonna probably be
Just
my enemy
saying.
right after this one drastic
mean,
measure. You know what I'm saying?
hey, you know,
But yeah, I'm gonna be facing the alleyway as I'm still continuing to dance, keeping an
Okay.
eye out on this guy.
so what we're gonna do is, because you don't have the dance skill, we had done almost like a physical prowess check, I believe. And as you reach out to kind of take her hands as she's kind of rotating out and away, she's receptive. She kind of gets a bit of a smirk on her face and kind of raises an eyebrow like, okay, I'll play along. That was interesting. And as she reaches out and you take her hands, you go to kind of do what seems to you would be the natural kind of motion, but again, you don't know how to dance. So let's go ahead and roll. I'm gonna let's give you a target of. It's not complicated. Let's do a target of 12. And your physical prowess. Let me take a quick look. Okay. So you've got a +2. Yeah, so go ahead and roll a 20-sided die. You need, let's just say a 10 or above. flat roll of 10 or above. Ooh, shit. All right. So my man comes out, grabs a hold of her, does like a triple twirl and just savants it. Just knows how to do it. He just knows. Slow start. Great at the finish line. You know what I mean? And he really, really moves her. She starts has a little giggle erupt out of her, kind of refreshed by signs that maybe this man can move his feet.
Hey.
She does a couple of little flourishes and a couple of moves to reciprocate. She quickly picks up on your intention after watching the situation unfold as well. And with a couple of large gestures, she quickly navigates you guys over to within about 10 feet of the back of that individual that's heading towards the alley. Now, at this point, that individual is about level with Ymir. And so you all, in a strange way, you're all kind of in a straight line going across. You're on one side of that creature, that humanoid, and Ymir is on the other side of it. Does that make sense, guys?
Yep.
Okay. So as you get over there, you're still dancing with her. You're, like I said, about 10 feet away from it. Now, coming up from behind and the side of it, it does not look safe to get much closer because those fucking things don't even necessarily look like they're under his control. They look like they just want to lash out and do some fucked up shit, but something's keeping them in check. You just don't want to press your luck. So getting much closer is going to probably feel fairly dangerous to a rational person. But we'll stick with you though. Akama, what are you doing? We're still not in initiative, by the way. We're just moving around.
I'm just like I said, I'm just trying to keep my eyes on him more than I am with Seraph.
Okay.
Seraph.
So you continue dancing. You hold about that position though, without moving in too much closer. Now, as you're watching him, you're impressed by the fact that whatever this suit is that he's wearing, or whatever this transformation was, it seems like this gear is heavily enchanted, and like he probably could really fucking tear into things in melee combat. You're not too sure about that, kind of crazy, light crossbow looking contraption. But for the most part, you would guess that if he just was turned loose in a large group of melee opponents, he'd just tear him to fucking shish kebab in just a few moments. So, again, though, he doesn't seem to really pay much mind to you just yet anyway. He seems to be very focused on moving at a pretty, rapid speed down the alleyway. Okay, you continue dancing. We'll kind of leave it there. Ymir, you're now on the other side of this individual, but you see Seraph and Akama on his far side. Wotek is actually just a little further than they are, in a roughly similar kind of line as he's not snuck, but as he's kind of like retreated back around that edge of the alleyway wall. So you would say that they're relatively safe. You don't see any real danger because this creature is just moving past all of you. What would you like to do?
I'm just sitting there, kind of still in that pseudo-defensive posture, because obviously this creature's on a mission, so I don't know what kind of threats might show up between 1 second and the next. So Ymir is just kind of in a defensive posture still, just watching this being, where he was going, whether he was hunting the target that he the creature he just walked into, or he's just kind of getting a hold of the situation, out of the way, but just sort of watching where this being's going and what exactly he's doing before starting to make his way up towards Akama. But for now, he is just sitting there in a defensive posture, watching this being, seeing what he's actually doing, paying close attention.
Okay, as he passes by you, Ymir, he turns the faceplate of his helmet towards you slightly, and he says, Visitor to the wandering aristocrat. Registration required. Now, as he says this, he holds up the palm of one gauntlet, the one with the large kind of crossbow contraption on it. And as he does so, the fingertips, the bottom edge of the fingertips start glowing a really low kind of smoldering orange. And as they do so, he holds his hand over towards basically where your hand is kind of hanging at your side. Are you holding with both hands your hammer? You had said that you were in... Okay, yeah, you didn't want to appear like threatening.
Right, exactly.
So as
Stately just one-handed, gripping it, still kind of slung over his shoulder, combat ready to put it in both of his hands if need be, but no, not threatening in any way, no.
Okay. All right, so as he does this, you get the clear impression that he's trying to reach out and kind of like grab like at your wrist, roughly, but the motion is very calculated and calm, and again, he's coming across with some authority. Now, you also are noticing now in the crowd, because you are facing towards him, which is overseeing the crowd that's starting to disperse around him, you're now seeing that people are pointing at him, and you're hearing some chatter that sounds reminiscent to what you would guess is some kind of authority figure. They're trying to almost keep what they're saying low and try and suppress their own fear and panic, very much like in societies where one isn't free to openly criticize the law. Does that make sense? So in that sense, you're also picking up that dimension of you would guess that this is some kind of security asset for this place. The last thing I'll mention is that you're hearing this in a way that feels more like it's inside of your head rather than just the spoken voice. You wouldn't guess that it's necessarily telepathy, but you would guess there's some other kind of like energy or force at work. It's beyond your understanding though, okay? And that goes for Akama, you as well. You hear the same words, but it feels like they're almost being broadcast over some kind of loudspeaker. And not only are you hearing it, but you get that impression that it's, not quite psychic, but something supernatural, okay? And you would both guess that it may even be something similar to like a mystical PA system. All right, Ymir, what would you like to do? How do you want to respond?
Take a look here.
Also, I should mention that Ymir, to you, it's in... I'm not sure which language would be officially your first language. If Russian would be the most comfortable
Probably, yeah. That would be
Okay.
the common tongue. It would be surprising if he spoke Vana tongue.
That's what you hear. Not
Yep.
something English that you have to translate. And for you, Akama, it's obviously Dragonese. So
Gotcha.
Ymir is taken back by this creature's just sudden stop of motion and hearing Russian reverberate in his head like that. It confuses him, but obviously there's something about this authority figure, or there's something about this figure that projects that authority. Doesn't mean he necessarily likes it, but he's dealt with their type before. He speaks back to him and goes, registration. When my party and I first got here, we weren't told anything about registration.
okay, and it snaps back very quickly as it still is taking steps towards you, and he says in that same kind of deep hollow tone, Security Act 1703. In emergency situations, citizens and visitors alike must submit to any law enforcement request, including tagging and ID verification. Submit or lethal force will be used. Okay, now as it says this, it takes the last couple of steps and is right upon you. So it's kind of like, if you keep your hand where it is, it's just about to make contact.
Okay. How is Wotek reacting to this conversation?
He's still kind of retreating away from the opening to the alley, but he's now turned to face this individual, and you. He doesn't appear very worried at all. He seems like he's
not postured up.
No.
Basically,
No.
That's what I'm trying to ascertain. Did he flip around and instantly go?
He's facing him and he's ready in case something happens, but that giant bear is basically just on the alert, not actually set up to start throwing paws. You know what I mean?
Good. Okay. Well, kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. As much as he doesn't like it, Ymir is not trying to make waves with the local security forces while he's here trying to gather supplies with his compatriots and do what he's got to do in the city. So as much as it pains him because he doesn't like having to submit to authority figure like this, it's very much he's putting his pride aside, and it hurts, it stings a little bit because he would not typically do this if it was his homeland. He would never fucking submit to their authority, but he's in a strange land that lives by different rules. So
I feel you, brother. I feel you. God damn. Keep your hands off. Hell yeah, bro.
I'm just thinking that I'm just trying to think out loud how Ymir would think. You know what I mean?
Fuck yeah, man.
It's definitely
It's a pretty
not
rational thought, in my opinion. Yeah, I get you.
And so he, as much as it pains him to go through this and kind of humble himself amongst an authority figure like that, he reaches his hand out and complies with the being's request.
All right, as you do so, it makes contact. It is very, very brief. More of like it just kind of slides its fingers across a few, several small points on your forearm. Is in contact with you for no more than maybe a second and a half, 2 seconds, as it moves kind of past you at an angle. As it does so, you look down. You don't even really feel anything other than what you would expect as a light contact with that kind of substance, that kind of material touching your flesh. Very light, doesn't feel obtrusive at all. You look down and you see that orange glow seems to have kind of smeared from the touch across your skin, and it seems to stay there. It doesn't seem like the intensity of it is lowering in any way. You don't pick up any kind of odor. You're not seeing any kind of sign of technology. If anything, it almost looks like he had some of the substance that is inside of the human's invention of those funny little glow sticks that they use in some of their military operations and that their children use during some of their celebrations. But that level of illumination is basically what you're getting off of this, something that's been charged in bright light for several minutes, and it looks like it probably will wear off eventually from just the general appearance of it. It doesn't look like anything really sophisticated, but whatever it is, it seems to be sticking, and it stays glowing the same exact way as when it first is applied. You're not sure even if you could just wipe it right off of your skin. You don't know. Other than that, that's about it. You could tell that it doesn't really have any kind of immediate detrimental effect. This individual finally ends by saying, You will be contacted soon. Your cooperation is expected. And compliance is required. Okay, at this, it very quickly reorients itself straight down the alley and takes off in a blur of speed. Extremely rapid acceleration. And as it does so, you notice that not only is it starting to run forward at full tilt, several of those blade-like appendages are reaching out in front of it, burying themselves in the cobblestones of the floor, and it's using the leverage to increase its own momentum. So it's moving way faster than a humanoid could just at a run. This sight gives it a strange new, almost kind of insect-like quality that you hadn't noticed when the person was just walking under its own speed. Okay, with that, as it takes off down the alleyway, Akama, what would you like to be doing as this little exchange happens and it goes flying by?
It doesn't go by me. It just continues down the alleyway. Yeah.
Yeah, you were on one side of it. I'm just saying, is there, as it takes off continuing down the alley, is there anything you want to...
I'm going to look at Seraph and ask her while I guess I'm still moving.
Oh yeah,
hey.
That 20 bought you some minutes, man.
I say, hey, for tourists around here, are they required to register? Is that something?
She looks at you and gets a very serious expression very, very quickly. And she says, that's a witch hound. She says, they are the security forces of the aristocrat, and he is currently the last one active until the next cycle. She says he is very, and she kind of looks away slightly for just a moment and looks back at you, almost with a little bit of, maybe not fear, but healthy respect, and says, effective. And she continues to dance, but right away her tempo reduces, and she kind of downshifts several gears in her exuberance and how much she's trying to kind of play the whole act up. As she does this, you notice that the crowd is also starting to slowly settle down and relax just a bit. People are not trying to kind of really sprint away. They've started slowing down and turning around to kind of see what's going on. And the general sense of panic seems to have actually fled from the immediate area. Okay. Akama, let's stick with you for just a second. What would you... Is there anything
Can I
else
look around to see if those two factions are still in the area?
You look around and you actually notice that the gorilla and the rebel-looking guys have seemingly disappeared into the crowd now. You're not seeing them around.
And what about the other oddball?
Which other oddball?
The guy with the negative aura.
Oh, that is this guy. This individual had been walking towards you, and as soon as that incident happened in the alleyway, he turned into that other...
Oh, shit. All right.
And started hurriedly going after it.
I'm going to look at Seraph and say, I'm going to meet my companion. Seems urgent. I thank you for this dance. And then I stop and do a nice gesture, like a bow, and then thank her once more, and then turn around and take off.
Okay, as you turn around, she grabs a hold of your forearm pretty tightly and says, hold on a second. And she really quickly from a pouch at her side, she whips out what you know to be like the one of the more standard communication devices, a piece of just what looks like flexible clear plastic in a rectangular shape. And as she pulls that out, you see a little blue kind of pulse of light emit from one end, and she says, link up so that I can get a hold of you if I need to, and just kind of holds it out towards you, requesting you to, do that process you had done before to connect your devices.
Yeah, man, of course. I look at her and I smile deep, and I said, you know it.
All right. So as you do so, you can notate that you actually have her contact information. Now, as that happens, she quickly nods and gets a very serious expression, turns and just kind of starts dancing back out through the crowd. But you notice through the next few seconds, her actions are actually more in line with shutting the celebration down, calming people down, and even the kind of dancing and the music that she cues up with some hand gestures from her companions, all of it takes a more kind of soothing and calming tone and seems to be meant to help the crowd just slowly start like breaking up for now. And as this happens, you're kind of amazed at how potent the instruction coming from that combination of her motions and the music is towards the crowd. People almost seemed just as mesmerized to de-escalate the situation now as they were to really enjoy the celebration earlier. So as everybody begins to kind of file out of this little square, and a lot of the businesses start kind of shuttering for what you would guess is going to be kind of the off cycle here, you see that most people are starting to head out of this area. Okay. With that, Akama, is there anything else that you'd like to do right now?
Is there a way to, as I'm walking or running back to Ymir, can I get a time check? to figure out what time is it right now for this universe.
As you do that, you're getting the sense. Let's see, when you check your own electronic timepiece, I believe we're about noon, let's say maybe an hour. So you're getting that it's like around 2 o'clock in the afternoon right now. Okay?
But it's still blanketed endless night, though.
Yes.
Correct?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
this place doesn't seem to really change.
Right.
But it should be roughly 2 o'clock in Rift's Earth.
I feel like the only reason I'm thinking of that is, I guess, because I kind of felt that it's nighttime, even though it was morning time when we came in, and when we went through this portal, it was nighttime already.
Yes.
So that's the only reason I was asking.
Yeah. And it does seem again like the regions, the sections of this place, they're not even really tied together so much as there's just doors between them. It's not necessarily like all this stuff's near it itself. These districts, you guys would guess, might even be in different dimensions, which would explain a lot. You know what I mean? Okay, anyway, back to what you would like to do.
I am making my way toward Ymir, trying to meet up with him to see if he was okay.
Okay. You head over, Ymir, you see him approaching. You guys are actually within just a few feet of each other right away. Ymir, is there anything you want to say or do?
No, just approach Akama. Just
Okay, so you head over to Akama. You guys have linked back up, and we'll pick up with that conversation when we jump back to you. In the meantime, Ren,
indeed.
we're finally going to get a chance to hear from you. You had sent your probes, for lack of a better word, out to kind of search around for any kind of interesting magical signatures or anything that might, be interesting to somebody trying to collect that type of data and research. And it came back with one of your probes had found this individual as you were walking with Geiger in her human form. This individual had kind of enticed you to come find her. And when your probe had begun kind of pulling away, you had noticed a strange kind of glitch that occurred just momentarily, but it definitely had put the hairs on the back of your neck on edge. So your probe does very quickly return to your position, however, and you had arrived outside of... Ooh, sorry about that. You had arrived outside of the Bennington, as Geiger had referred to it. This place, she seems thrilled to go in and spend some time in. Really, really wants to make that happen and is actively trying to pull you by the arm, almost by main force. Not quite that aggressive, but almost by main force. She's trying to pull you along to go in and just dip into that place for a bit. She hasn't really explained exactly why or what she wants to do. But yeah, that's where we're at. This is at a kind of main junction in the streets of this section of the Wandering Aristocrat. And it seems like the further on you go forward, you start getting into the real kind of like slums. And this is of this section. And this seems like it's right on the edge the edge of the more commercial kind of district of this area. So it's kind of right on that doorstep between the slums and where people normally would come that are tourists to find some kind of relatively safe nightlife. So your impression of this place is that it probably doesn't have a whole lot of rules. So
okay. I've been fairly resistant, although eventually giving in to most of her requests. I think this time I realize that and just like fuck it, and we'll just go as opposed to putting up any resistance.
okay. All right, you head in the door with her, and as you do so, you come across a relatively lively, kind of active bar environment where everybody seems to be having a really good time. There are some people and you know, humanoids that seem to be kind of rough customers, but for the most part, this place is actually way more just kind of friendly and clean, safe than you would have guessed from the outside. Now, you're not exactly sure why this is, because most of the staff look like normal, just like standard humanoids, or humans. And in that sense, it doesn't really look like you've got, you know, combat cyborgs working the door. It looks like even security are just kind of more plain